The San Antonio Regionals were last weekend, and they featured some of the best games of Pokemon that I have ever seen. This finals match between the 5-time regional champion AzulGG and his Charizard deck against the longtime player and searching for his first major win, Grant Hayes with his Lost Zone Giratina deck. These are some of the best games of Pokemon, the best set of Pokemon that has maybe happened this year outside of perhaps my regional finals match. But really incredible stuff from these players. I'm going to be doing a VOD review of this match because it is very intricate, and there's a lot of plays that I questioned that you may question yourself at home, and I'd love to hear some of your comments on why some of the players made some of the plays that they did, because there were some that just kind of left me scratching my head, and some brilliant plays that I just didn't even see. So fantastic finals match. And of course, we had a major misplay by Azul, and that's very interesting as well because it just goes to show that even some of the best players in the world have opportunity to get better. I know that's true of myself. I know Azul would say that about himself as well. It's just very interesting to see that play out on the game's biggest stage. So without further ado, let's get into the VOD review. This was by far one of the most exciting finals matches, I think, of all time. Really incredible play by both players but like there's room for improvement, right? It wasn't flawless, which is a good thing, right? We have these top tier players still making minor errors, making very difficult decisions in the moment, and coming up a little bit short in certain cases, and playing it spectacularly in others. This is a really fun finals match to commentate over, and it was very apparent that these two players knew their decks inside and out. So for Azul, starting off with the Battle VIP pass and the Mew start, this is about as optimal of a start as you could get. Anytime you start the Mew in a Charizard deck or a Gardevoir deck, you're feeling fantastic because that's going to get you Battle VIP, that's going to get you maybe the rare candy. And Azul here also with the Rotom and also with the Forest Seal. Now, I don't think I would have dropped the Forest Seal Stone on the Rotom because I feel like it's more likely that Grant would play a Lost Vacuum than Grant would play a Disruption card. And even if Grant played a Disruption card, he would probably play Iono, and I think you can get out of an Iono hand. Like, I don't think Grant will play Judge, and it's true Grant doesn't play Judge in this list. So I don't love the Forest Sealstone play, and what I tell a lot of the players that I coach is what's more likely. In this case, it would be more likely for Grant to play a Lost Vacuum than it would be for a Draw supporter. So I think you can, or a Disruption supporter. So I think you can go ahead and safely hold on to that tool if you're Azul. Shouldn't matter too much, but that's just the way I approach that. And maybe he's thinking, well, if I get Iono'd, then at least I have the Forest Sealstone, and I can get out of potentially whatever Grant has in store for me, because ideally Grant wants to play a Chorus on his first turn, right? So if he Ionos, then he at least has the ability to search out a card. So a couple of Comfies and the Path and the Abyss Seeking. This is big for Grant. He had, frankly, a good start. I love what Giratina can do, especially when it can get that path down on the first turn and really forcing Azul to have a lot of combo pieces. Azul would need 3 pieces to do damage to Grant's Giratina, right? He'd need the Path Bump, and then he'd need the Rare Candy Charizard. So we'll see if he can piece it together. Obviously does have the Forest Sealstone and the Mew to use, and I do see that Rare Candy, which should go right to the hand. Yep, there it is for Azul. And an Ultra Ball to maybe go grab the Pidgeot. If you go ahead and Ultra Ball for the Pidgeot, then you can get a little bit more set up here. You have the Charizard in hand, so you can go Rare Candy Pidgeot and then grab the Rare Candy for the Charizard. And then maybe Forest Seal for the Path Bump. So really just an ideal turn from Azul here, going second, or on his second turn, I should say. Going for the quick search, should find himself a stadium bump. Now, I think the ideal stadium bump here is a stadium and not the Lost Vacuum, because Lost Vacuum can be searchable by Arven, whereas the stadiums can't. So I agree here with the Charizard play, or the Lost City play, grabbing 3 fire with the Charizard, of course, quick searching for the rare candy, and yeah, pretty much using all of his resources, and might bench the Charmander. Yes, we do see that, and there is 180 going on to that Giratina. Not a huge deal that Azul attacked first. The bigger deal is going to be whether or not Grant can get to 10 in the Lost Zone and at least have 2 Giratina down, because then that way he could potentially knock out this Charizard with the V-Star power, and, you know, and then maybe get a path in play, and maybe Azul stumbles a little bit. So from Grant, there's the attach. We see another path. I think that's fine by Grant. Just kind of slam these down as you find them. Now, you do only have 1 remaining path. I always like to see a path coupled with a disruption supporter, so we'll see if that will be the case for that final path. But certainly can't hurt to put up the path right now. So, unfortunately, just another Abyss Seeking. Does have that second Giratina down, and should take, I think, some energy. No, we see a boss and a jet, I think. So, really getting up there. 7 in the Lost Zone now. There is another candy, which is crazy. It almost feels like at this point, Azul could just manually evolve up the Charizard, but instead going for the Iono, maybe hoping to hit a Lost Vacuum to get rid of the path so that he can quick search. I almost feel like for Azul, you do want to bump the path whenever it comes up, because you know that you play, you know, enough stadium bumps to counter Grant's stadiums. Grant usually, I mean, in the Giratina list, they could play 3 or 4. And so Grant probably plays, you know, 3, I would imagine, right? If I'm Azul and I don't know the list, it's probably 3. So the sooner you can bump the paths, he's already bumped 1. There's 1 in the active. I think the more access you have to quick search, the better. So that looks like another Iono top deck from Azul, which is fine. He'd really just like to see an energy, to be honest. Looking at the hand, shuffling it like a billion times. There is a level ball. I don't know that I necessarily agree, actually, with going for the Mew here, because he's already Iono'd on the last turn, so now what he's doing is he's shuffling all those cards that he didn't want to see back into the deck. So I actually would have preferred Azul to Iono first if he's looking for like a hard energy to retreat this Mew, because now he's shuffled all those bad cards from the bottom of his deck. I think that's actually not a major misplay, because he's going to thin 1 card and get the Charmeleon, but I think it's, you know, I think it is a misplay. I think it's lessening your odds of getting what you want, unless he goes ahead and plays the Arven anyway, which kind of nullifies exactly what I was just saying there. So if you go with the Iono, certainly incorrect to Mew, but maybe I missaw. Maybe it wasn't actually a top deck of an Iono. I think it was just the Arven that I don't think he even has Iono in hand, so great. There's that path bump for the Pidgeot to go search out with a quick search ability, any card, and it looks like it is going to be an energy to manually retreat here with this Mew. Now, of course, Azul would love to have gotten another Charizard into play so that he could accelerate some energy into play, but wasn't meant to be with the hand that he had, and is just going to take a knockout with the Giratina. Now, for Grant, is showing 10 in the Lost Zone for him, so he could get a knockout with the Star Requiem, and then maybe combine that with an Iono, and hopefully a path, and try to recover that way. You really need Azul to stumble a bit. There is the Psychic and the Water. Now, Grant did put back a couple of cards with the Super Rod, that Giratina V and the Water Energy, just to make sure that he had two different types of energy to be able to Mirage Gate. There's that Charizard. Charizard. There's that Cramorant hitting the bench for Grant. And another Giratina V. Pretty solid board for Grant. Azul did miss that one attack. Is behind by a turn from where he would prefer to be. And that might give Grant just enough life to try to claw back into this game. There is another path, and I think, again, yeah, you just slam it down. Do 280. Maybe Grant is thinking he can set up a knockout and then clean up with the Cramorant. I think I would have preferred to see Grant take the KO here, because when Azul doesn't have a... Oh my gosh, another path bump from Azul. When Azul doesn't have another Charizard in play, I feel like you want to just take that KO. I'm not sure exactly why you wouldn't. But Grant is obviously a great player. Maybe it's because you have... I'm trying to think if it has anything to do with the energy that you have in play. But I don't even think that's it, because how is Azul knocking out your Giratina? I suppose he could go, if you take 2, that's only going to be 240. Yeah, I'm just not sure. I think you take the knockout there. Maybe he doesn't want Azul to Iono him, because I think he's setting up the Cramorant play. Giratina into Cramorant, force Azul to have a Gust on the Cramorant, maybe be able to Roxanne or Iono again next turn, but he does have the Pidgeot. So, yeah, I think you take the knockout, take your 2 prizes, try to build up something a little bit better for the next turn. Maybe he's worried about getting Iono'd. I don't know. There is that Charizard. I mean, all this is kind of moot, because Azul did have the path bump, which is going to be a big theme of the series. Grant is trying to get a path to stick for at least a turn, try to shut down that Pidgeot, maybe even try to gust up the Pidgeot and knock it out, whereas Azul is just going to always try to have that path bump to be able to use not only Charizard's ability, but Pidgeot's as well. So there's a Nest Ball. Grant is wiping the dust off that sleeve. And looking for, it is going to be a Sableye, so maybe trying to weave in a Sableye for a little bit more, ideal damage placements. There is 280 on the active. Will need to find an energy for the Sableye and a switch card. Does have... Oh no, does have what looks like the Jet energy, but that can't be attached to the Sableye. I think Sableye makes the most sense here because you want to be able to knock out a couple of Pokemon on Azul's side of the field. You could knock out a Charizard and a Mew, but that is not going to be the that's not going to be a play that's available to Grant because he has to attach the Jet to the Comfey to dig a little bit more. So we do see a retreat into the Cram. Does have the Psychic Energy for next turn, but that would have been the ideal turn, obviously, to use it. And maybe, honestly, for Grant, maybe that's why he made the Giratina play. Now I'm kind of seeing it. Grant could have pulled into the lead there had he been able to get an energy on that Sableye. So I was questioning it, but now seeing the turn play out, one turn ahead, I mean, Grant was clearly playing 5D chess. And, yeah, I think saving the V-Star for later turns might actually prove to be, just a more solid play. Now, Azul has access to the Pidgeot, of course, so could even attack with it here. I don't hate that. Would need to get a Rare Candy Charizard to enable that play, but that is an option that's available to him. Or, of course, could retreat into the Charizard. We do see a Gust and a knockout with the Charizard on that Giratina. So, of course, Ideally for Grant, he'd have a Roxanne and a Path and a knockout of this Charizard, but that's not going to be the case. So he has to look at his hand. I don't see a Roxanne here. There's a Sableye. Interesting. I don't see a way for Grant to take multiple prizes. I mean, I just feel like, wouldn't you promote the Comfy here to try to dig? I mean, you need stuff that's just not in your hand. I'm not sure here what the play is. Maybe you try to gust up something and you lost mine. I think that might be what Grant is looking here. He has a counter catcher in hand, I believe. So try to gust up a Rotom and hope it sticks. Maybe there's not enough energy in Azul's deck that he can't Pidgeot for it. So there's a Roxanne, but again, yeah, there's that Pidgeot there, so I'm not sure exactly. Maybe Grant's hoping that he can buy a turn with this Sableye in the active. It seems like a decent strategy as long as Azul doesn't draw one of the pieces, like an energy and a gust, because you have to imagine that Grant's going to take a knockout here. So there is the okay. I don't see. Do I see counter catcher here? He's kind of thumbing it to the front. So if Grant takes a KO here, then Azul can actually win the game with Vitality Band onto the Giratina. And this is actually a pretty big... You see it flashed there by Azul. You see him have the boss, but you're just so tunnel visioned that you don't see this play. I mean, it's really, really difficult math to like really come up with on the spot. You're thinking about, okay, I need to get another Charizard up to take the last prize, but Azul could win, right? Grant's taken 3 prizes at this point, making Charizard do 270 damage, and then with the Vitality Band, which is in the deck, could gust up that Giratina, just quick search for the Vitality Band, take the knockout. Azul doesn't see this. This is a massive, massive change in the game at this point. I mean, it's literally the... Not seeing this play could have cost Azul the game. Now, he's up a considerable amount, and it's not going to matter in the end, but this is like as big of a mistake as you're going to see a player like this make. And I'm not saying that I would have seen it necessarily in this situation, but this could have been extremely, extremely detrimental for Azul here. Didn't see it, and hindsight is 20/20, but could have won the game. You never want to give your opponent any extra turns to try to win the game. And so that sets the Charizard up perfectly for the Giratina knockout. Lost impact. There's a Psychic Energy. Does need a Mirage Gate on Grant's side of the field. That's certainly what he's going to be looking for. And Azul would love to get another Charmander up. I don't know if that's going to be enough, though. We'll see. There is a quick search, and probably you gotta just get a Charmander, right? You gotta do it. And Azul does grab the Charmander. He is shuffling.
That means your search is complete. Azul really debating there if this Charmander was the right grab off this quick search, but there's no going back now.
And then you imagine that he's going to play that down onto the field. Yep, there is the Charmander. And an attach to the Charmander. So playing a little bit around path here because you could still get an attachment plus a Rare Candy Charizard without needing to use the ability to get an attack off. Grant pushes up the Comfy and is going to have to take a knockout on this Charizard and hopefully pair it with another Iono. There is the Water Energy, and the Grass should have the Psychic in hand. Does. And I believe I did see a switch card also in Grant's hand, so should be able to get the knockout here on the Charizard. It's going to be up to Azul to find the Rare Candy into the Charizard with an Energy in deck. We'll see if he can piece it together. That would be a knockout. Grant would have taken 5 prizes. Grant played this pretty well. I gotta say, I mean, they both obviously did, but Grant played this really, really excellently, in my opinion. There's Pidgeot, and we have Rare Candy and Energy. Azul just has plot armor for this tournament, I think, because that's so It's so insane to have that piece off the Roxanne. Pretty much just had everything that he needed at every turn, which is what you want to see against one of the harder matchups for the Charizard deck. Unfortunately for Grant, nothing was sticking in that first game. No paths were sticking. It was really tough. And you see here, Azul going first, Grant choosing to go second, which I think is correct. Again, against Charizard, one strategy that many decks have is to deny them the Arven play on the first turn, since they play 4 Arven. It basically halves their chances of finding Battle VIP Pass, and that's one of the big cards for the Charizard deck. If they can find Battle VIP Pass early, then they can get set up, right? They can get a Charizard, get a Pidgey out, really, get scooting, as it were. So there's Mew, hits the bench, and that's going to go fishing for a Battle VIP Pass. You got to imagine, attach retreat to the Pidgey, use the Mew's ability, try to find a Battle VIP, or at the very least, a level ball, and get out some more Pokemon. So there is the attachment, the retreat, and the Mew. Let's see. There is nothing. Uh-oh. So, oh gosh. Do you play the Ultra Ball to get a Charmander out? That feels so ugly. Or maybe you go for a Lumineon. And yeah, okay, so there's a Lumineon. Does find a supporter for next turn, but no Charmander? You gotta think Grant... I hate to say you gotta think Grant easily wins this game, but I don't know as Grant how you lose this game. You did everything right. Now you have Azul with 4 dead cards in his deck. I guess 3 because he prized a Battle VIP. But just an abysmal start from Azul. I can't see him coming back in this game, but it is certainly possible. There is... It's an equally terrible start from Grant. There's a Path to the Peak. Doesn't opt for a Nest Ball. Maybe is hoping that he can find a Cramorant for next turn, which is pretty fair. And yeah, we do see the Rope and the Battle VIP discarded off of the Giratina. Abyss Seeking. Couple of Battle VIP in the hand for Azul. Not great. But a level ball maybe is going to look for another Charmander. I'd expect it. Yep, there it is, hitting Azul's hand. Going to shuffle up and play that right to the bench. And then, since he was able to get Mew active, I mean, frankly, it's could be a lot worse if he can hit an Ultra Ball, if he can hit a Rare Candy. But, again, another whiff. So, I don't know. People complain a lot about Electric Generator. They complain a lot about Electric Generator. What about the people complaining about Mew? How come nobody complains about Mew? Nobody's sitting up here and saying, you know, oh, Mew's such a bad card. He missed an item. The top 6. Like, nobody's sitting here saying that, right? He did it twice, even. It's just not looking great in this game for Azul. So there's a Nest Ball, and Grant just needs to get a few more things down. I'd probably go for a Comfy here. Obviously, thumbing through the deck, wants to know what's prized, wants to know what he has access to in terms of resources, and there is that Comfy on the bench. We see a Jet Energy coming in clutch for Grant, because not only can he switch, but he can retreat back to the Giratina, and we do see that Abyss Seeking for 4 more cards. Please, can we get a Colress? Can we get a Colress here? And the Super Rod and Escape Rope go into the Lost Zone. Now that's really big. 2 Escape Rope in the Lost Zone for Grant means that it's going to be a lot harder for him to pivot the Giratina V-Stars. We'll see if that comes into play here in Game 2. And there finally is the Rare Candy from Azul. We'll see if he can get around the Path to the Peak. Because honestly, if he could get a Charizard EX attacking on this turn, that would be pretty incredible given the start that Azul had. Put a lot of pressure. There's an Artisan. Likely, I don't know, Manaphy, Pidgey, both feel fine to me. Another Charmander. Sure, Manaphy is fine, I guess. You're protecting against the Greninja, which makes a lot of sense. So there's a Pidgey being evolved into Pidgeot, and going to search out a supporter. Probably Arven. Arven can get you the rare or the Ultra Ball because you already have rare candy. And yep, we do see the Charizard, and is going to rare candy Charizard and find the 3 energy. Move that Mew, attach 1 there and 2 to the Charizard, and hit into this Giratina. I was saying how bad Azul's start was. I don't know. Grant's might have been worse. There's really no pressure being put on by Grant at all at this point. Now that, especially since Azul got around the path. And again, I see Azul putting the Forest Seal Stone down on the bench. I don't know. Maybe Grant doesn't play a Lost Vacuum. I'd just be worried about that. So maybe it's not a big deal. If you know that Grant doesn't play a Lost Vacuum, maybe he has that knowledge. He must have that knowledge because Grant has been playing in the tournament now for, what, 17 rounds? So friends have probably scouted Grant. I think he might have been on stream earlier. I think he might know that Grant doesn't play a Lost Vacuum. So with that information, sure, play the Forest Seal. Absolutely. And again, the Radiant Greninja hits the discard, the Lost Zone, I should say. Man, that is crazy. Another path, another early path. Unfortunately, again, want to be pairing these paths with Roxanne, but hit for 110 is not so bad because you can follow that up with a Giratina, but only 6 in the Lost Zone for Grant is going to desperately need to find a course on the next turn. There's a Super Rod from Azul. Shuffle the deck up. Certainly going to be looking for a Charmeleon or Rare Candy Charizard. Maybe get an energy attachment down here. Does, of course, have access to the V-Star, but Grant would love to see Azul blow the V-Star here early to, you know, bump this path, right? Because then that means that the likelihood of the final path sticking is much higher. And of course, that Iono from Azul means that there will be no boss. Means that Azul will go to 5 prizes instead of 4. And there is the Lumineon. You got to think that it will be for a path bump here. I would suspect a Lost City, but there is, well, I guess if you get the Lost Vacuum, you are also increasing Grant's Lost Zone count by 1, so we'll see. He grabs had the collapsed, great, getting rid of the Lumineon on Azul's side, and then quick searching for the rare candy, and does have the Charizard in hand, and should find energy, so he's shuffling up, but I think he's going to play this rare candy Charizard, so.
And looking like not even choosing to get the rare candy and stuff to get that Charizard, yes, into play, just taking the knockout on the Cramorant. And
maybe not.
do that with the way Grant has been navigating this game.
Yeah, you do risk getting Iono'd, I guess, but probably
I'm not sure. Azul opted not to play the Charizard that turn. I don't know about that play. Maybe he didn't have any energy in the deck. I missed it. But let me know what you think in the comments, because that seems like a weird one to me. I feel like you evolve into the Charizard unless you don't have energy left, which could be the case. That seems like the only scenario where you don't just rare candy, because I think he does have rare candy. And I think he definitely does have Charizard, so that seems like an interesting play. I'd be curious to hear the reasoning behind doing this, because now it opens up Grant to Iono, put all those cards to the bottom, and maybe Path, and again, it is harder for Azul to respond. You got to think that Grant is cooking up a knockout here on this Charizard, so pair that with an Iono, and it might just be game over for Azul if he can't draw the right pieces that he needs. So a pass from Grant. Okay. That's not what I'm expecting. When you have a lost zone of 10, you know, at this point in the game, it feels like you should be able to put on more pressure than you are. There is an attach with the Charizard and is only going to find 1 energy, maybe hoping that, you know, maybe he's thinking Grant is going to like counter catcher or something here and wants to save energy in the deck. That's fair. I'm not exactly sure Maybe he was hoping that Grant would knock him out, or saying like if Grant knocked him out, that he would be able to quick search for a Super Odd and shuffle those energy back in the deck, and then be a little bit more liberal with the Charizard. I'm not exactly sure here from Azul what the strategy there was to save the Charizard for this turn as opposed to evolving it last turn, but must have been something that I missed there. So Grant thinking 10 in the loss zone and down 2 prizes, not the position you want to be in as the Giratina player. Things are going off the rails quick. You're already down 2 path. There is a Colress as Azul. If I'm Azul, I'm thinking that I'm winning this regional easily. Going to be my 6th regional win of all time. A lot of energy there for Grant off of that Colress. Finally hits a Colress, though. And yeah, I think you grab the Comfy or the Sableye. Does opt for Sableye here. Maybe spread some damage. Maybe can take a knockout on the Mew. Maybe can take a knockout on the Manaphy. And there's Switch. And the attach. Couple of V-Stars coming down. Path is in play for Grant. There's the Switch cart. There's the Sableye. Gotta take a knockout. I think you put some damage on the other Charizard as well. So I think you put 50 on the other Charizard, and then you knock out the Mew, or you knock out the Manaphy or something. I think that makes the most sense. Grant is trying to weigh his options. We'll see what he does go for. If you put 5 on the bench Charizard, then it means that Giratina can knock it out. He's going to do... he's going to do 1 on the Manaphy, and he's going to do 11 on the Charizard. So that puts Charizard at 220. With 130 damage left. What is that math good? What's... oh, it's 110. Okay, 110. I see. So he could take it out with a Cramorant or with a Sableye is maybe the thought here. So there's a Lost Vacuum. See that getting rid of the collapsed. And then there's the Jirachi coming down for Azul. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just think you got to take the prize card when it's there for you. But again, clearly Grant is like on another playing field than I am with this Giratina deck, because I think you probably take the knockout on the Mew, and then you put 5 damage counters on the Charizard, and then maybe you put that last damage counter on the Manaphy. Like, I think you're going through these Charizard with your Giratinas, right? So if that's the case, then I don't really understand putting the damage counter on the Manaphy. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So for Azul, we see a quick search, grabbing out a card that I could not quite see because he's so fast. Maybe it was just a card to thin. The Justified Gloves, I think, hitting the Jirachi. It's just thinning a card from the deck, I guess. I couldn't quite see it. That doesn't seem like a great play. I think you probably try to take like a Gust or something for next turn. So I doubt it was the Justified Gloves there off of the Pidgeot. But that is the only card that I saw come into play. And Grant could take a knockout on this active with a Sableye. Maybe tries to go here for a Mirage Gate. We do see a couple of energy potentially hitting the board. Yeah, is looking to go for that Sableye play. I mean, I guess why not, right? Might as well. It's only at it's got 11 damage left. There's a counter catcher. Can't use that if you want to take a knockout on this Charizard. Wow, it's going to be really interesting to see if Grant can come back here. There is the Sableye. There is another Comfy hitting the bench. Do we see a Disruption Sporter? We do not. Knockout on the Charizard takes 2 prizes for Grant. 3 prizes for Azul, 4 for Grant. But I don't know, man. How does Grant win this game? I just don't see it. I mean, I guess if Azul can't put together another Charizard, then that would be how Grant wins. So he has to go next turn, knockout with the Giratina, and then Roxanne Path would, I guess, like be the game, I'd imagine. But he still needs energy in play. It's not like he has Mirage Gates or anything. Gets to 4. Azul plays the Iono. This looks so bad. It's so bad. It's tragically bad for Grant. I'm just like, I know he wins this game, obviously, because it does go to a 3-game set, and I kind of alluded to that earlier in the video, but it just seems like such a bad position. Like if I'm Grant and I'm sitting in this position, I'm just like, I have very few outs to win. Obviously, you're just trying to pull off the wombo combo of the Roxanne path or Iono path, but with the way that Azul structured his field, has the Pidgeot, is taking a knockout, goes down to 2 prizes. I mean, it just gets so disgustingly difficult from here on out for Grant. Has to hope that Azul whiffs, and that's usually not a great strategy for Pokemon card players. Does have the Mirage Gate, and does have the path, and I think I saw the Roxanne. So this is a pretty insane turn from Grant, as much as we've seen big plays from Azul. Oh, wow. Roxanne path. Has to find a Mirage Gate and not drawn to the Psychic Energy? This is intense. He attached from hand the grass to the active, so there's the gate. Holy. Do we have a Super Rod? We do. Oh my. Yep, get some energy back. Attaboy. And then go here and Super Rod a couple energy back. And then we see a Mirage Gate. There it is.
This is going to be so close, Jeremy.
And we should see a V-Star. And then he could follow that up with a Gust on the Pidgeot. So we'll see what Azul can cook up here with only 2 cards in hand. Pidgeot does have the Lost Vacuum. Could Iono or Research? That's actually really interesting because what Azul did in the early game was take a Research off of Lumineon, and I almost wonder if he had saved the Research and he had researched for 7 cards here, if he could have gotten a knockout on this Giratina by piecing together a Rare Candy Charizard energy play. That's really interesting. I think you still, as Azul, you play that Lumineon down early, right? And you want to grab the best draw supporter because your starting hand was so bad, but it just begs the question, like, man, maybe you want to play 2 Research in the deck, or save the Research in the end. It's just really interesting how that one decision early could really affect him later in the game, because right now Azul doesn't have any draw supporters, right? He has Iono. That's not really a draw supporter. It's going to get him 2 cards. Very hard to piece together the combo. And then you have Arven, which is not a draw supporter. It is a hand augmenting supporter. We do see a Boss's Orders on the Giratina with no energy. And will we see a retreat? I think it probably makes sense. And there's a pass into the Charmander. And wow, and a boss. I'm not sure. That's really interesting. Why did Azul leave the Charmander active there to be knocked out? I'm not sure on that. That's curious. I don't know about that play, but we're going to move on to a game 3 regardless. Didn't matter in the end with Grant having the boss. Here we are in game 3, and Azul opts to go second, so what Grant has done is just attached, passed, hasn't started Comfy in any of these games. Somehow his loss zone is at 15, which is crazy to think on his first turn. That's going to enable some insane Mirage Gate plays for sure. And Azul, once again, that early Mew, I mean, this is about as good as you could hope for. Has the Rotom in hand, no path from Grant. I mean, it's just like he has plot armor for this tournament, man. Like, these are the games and the starts that you want to have with this deck. Has a couple of Pokemon in play, has the Mew in the active, has a Rotom, so like is immune to an Escape Rope play. Has a Rare Candy, has a Pidgeot. I mean, it's just ridiculous, dude. Like, this has the Charizard. He's going to have Rare Candy, Pidgeot into Charizard, assuming no path from Grant, which is absurd. There is the path. Okay. So, could still get around this by finding a Lost Vacuum, but we do see an attachment from Grant and an Abyss Seeking. There's the Arven! No way! Rare Candy for the Forest Seal Stone. Gonna find a Lost City, I imagine, and does take that to hand. Lost City, and Rare Candy, Charizard, probably Pidgeot for either another supporter or Charmander. I think a Charmander probably makes a little bit more sense here. And there is that Mew. Maybe try to find a Lost Vacuum for the next turn. That's probably what I would take. There is the Level Ball, which is great. Okay, that gets out Charmander, and then maybe you take a supporter for the following turn. Maybe you take a Lost Vacuum for the following turn, be able to use your Pidgeot again. Maybe you take an Arven even. I don't know. Arven probably feels pretty weak now that you've played your Forest Sealstone down. So there's a retreat, and 180 doesn't even deign to use the Level Ball. Again, I don't know what you're waiting for here. I guess you are playing around Sableye, but are you? Do you think Grant could get a Sableye on this next turn? Is there any reason not to play a... Is there any reason not to play a Charmander there? I'm actually not sure. This is really puzzling to me because you have the Level Ball. Maybe he wants to save the Level Ball for a Pidgey? I don't know. I'm really perplexed at some of these plays. It feels like, and somebody could tell me in the comments, I would really love to know, like, what is the reasoning there for getting the Level Ball and then not playing it? I'm just not seeing the reasoning. Yeah, I think we should see a... Yeah, there's a Mirage Gate. Wow, so Grant flooding the board with energy. Getting to 7 barely with a couple of attacks of Abyss Seeking. And we will see a Lost Impact. Yep, 2 go to the Lost Zone. There's 9 in the Lost Zone. So really ramping up quickly. And again, for Azul, like I feel like you bench the Charmander on the last turn, and then you can power up a Charizard, and then... I don't know. What do I know? I guess saving it for the Jirachi. Maybe that just makes more sense. Maybe I'm just bad at Charizard. That might be true. And then going in with 180 onto that Giratina. Now what Grant could do is maybe try to gust the Pidgeot. That might actually be a great play. There's the retreat into the Cramorant. I also really like this. Maybe play the path. Yep, we do see the path being played. And you got to consider playing the Super Rod, I think. There's an energy attachment. I almost feel like Super Rod would be good here to recycle some energy back into the deck for Grant. That is going to be at a premium and takes a couple prizes. Misses the Radiant Greninja, though. Do see an Arven for a Lost Vacuum. It just, again, seems like Azul has every answer. And then we see a quick search for a Super Rod. Ultra Ball. Discarding the Rare Candy. Gonna go ahead and use the other Rare Candy. And maybe even taking a knockout with the Pidgeot here. I think so. Leaving that active. Wow. So Grant could potentially go up here 4 prizes to 1. And with time coming up, there's 2 minutes left in the game. Just keep an eye on that timer, ladies and gentlemen, because that's going to play a big role in these final few moments. We see another switch card here from Grant. He should try to go quickly and have it so that time is called on Azul's turn. That would be ideal for Grant. You don't want to take the full time here because you're in such a commanding position that you want to have as much time as possible, as many turns as possible, I should say, try to close out the game. So I'm hoping for Grant that he's able to, correctly identify this is like thumbing around a lot of Super Rod. He's just making a lot of game actions. And with a minute left, you want to make ideal plays, right? You got to make sure you take this knockout, but you also just want to make sure that you're doing everything correctly in terms of playing into time. So we do see a Colress, and yeah, I'd imagine that time will end here on Grant's turn, which is unfortunate for him because he's taken such a big lead. There's a couple energy that go to Lost Zone, very interesting. And there's the Jet Energy and knockout, go, hurry, Hurry, take a knockout. Oh, you're thumbing. You could have done it. No. That's fine. That's fine. Azul might have also recognized this and you know, and not drawn his card until time ran out. I have no doubt that Azul is also very aware of the time left. But this looks like a terrible spot to be in, to be honest. For Azul is going to Iono for 5 cards. Give Grant a measly 2. And no Giratina in play. Grant just wins if he can announce his V-Star attack. That is crazy. We'll see what happens here. Really looks bleak for Azul. Really doesn't look good at all. We see a knockout. That's all Azul can do. And for Grant, I mean, you got to think that he pushes up the Comfy, right? And he has that energy in hand, so maybe he can find another switch option. Roxanne is a great card to draw. I think you just immediately play that. You're looking for the single Giratina V-Star out of that, what looks like maybe a 15-card deck. Giratina V-Star is the game-winning card here for Grant, so I think he has 1 or 2 left in the deck. It's not a guarantee to hit it, but obviously you, I think, have a pretty solid chance to do it. There's an S-Ball. We do see the Giratina. There is a Greninja. You probably play that to the field, certainly this turn. And yeah, gotta hit that Giratina. There's maybe 8 cards left in the deck or so.
And Azul in these positions, judge shuffle here. He always requests, whenever it comes down to the wire, Azul always requests a judge shuffle. A judge shuffle is final. Neither player can cut or shuffle themselves. Power selecting does not find the Tina. He's got the retreat.
And the judge cut. There is the Cole. There's the Comfy. Oh man, this is really exciting. Do we see a switch card? Because you need, obviously, the Giratina V-Star plus the switch card. Oh my gosh, this is insane. There's the Comfy.
It could be the $3,000 judge shuffle. Grant, I think, is just making sure he's aware of how the time rules work in this spot.
He's going to potentially retreat. He does have a switch in hand? Yeah, I think you just make this. No Giratina. No way. Oh no, there's 3 cards left. He had 7. Oh, 4. There's 4. Okay. Can't play the counter catcher. He is up on prizes. Oh my gosh. There's 3 or 4 cards? That's crazy. He missed. He had such good odds. The Roxanne. And Azul has boss to win the game. Absolutely ludicrous finals match from Azul. Like, if that's an untimed game, then Azul loses pretty much every time there, right? Because you think that Grant should be able to draw through the rest of the deck, find the Giratina, find the last energy that he needs to announce an attack on the Charizard, announce that V-Star. Crazy game. You saw both players kind of make some interesting plays. Again, I want to hear what you have to say in the comments for some of those plays that I was maybe suggesting throughout the course of the video, because if you have a reasoning for why maybe Azul didn't play Charmander's down, or for why Grant made some of the choices that he did, I would love to know, because I thought there were some really interesting choices that I maybe wouldn't have picked up. And that's why I like to review these games, because clearly these players know these decks like the back of their hand and are making plays that, you know, maybe I don't see as ideal, but with their expertise with the deck, they're seeing lines that I just can't. So very interesting finals match. I loved watching this a couple of times. It was really just one of the premier games of Pokemon that I think you'll ever see. So with that, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you thought down in the comment section below. I'll catch you on the next one. God bless. If I don't see you soon, I'll see you later. And remember, good luck. And also have fun.